volume of work that you're putting through the players back then in the early days and the road runs they were doing. Since then, the game's got so much harder and faster. Bodies getting bigger. The collisions are getting bigger. How have you learned through your time how things have changed and how you've had to adapt? Obviously, there's a lot's changed around the technology with GPS units and the speed at which you can get data in real time. And which we talked about with Liz Marin about that and how much more quick and effective it is to get this data and be able to make split-second decisions on the spot about whether to pull someone out of a certain drill or get them to push a bit harder.
And look, what Liz would have been referring to there was more about if somebody is at risk. It might be a Tommy where we're looking for a particular load or volume on the hamstrings, and then we say, let's try and stay away from these types of exhales after a certain time. Then we're going in there and doing that.
Put something more appropriate in place that they can do.
100%, yeah, and even more importantly, let's get the important stuff done if we've got enough for that. But what you're talking about there is, we always good performance units are built for training blocks. The game looks after itself. The game's got nothing to do with us. All we do in the game is get the athlete ready, get them primed, physically primed, mentally primed, go do your work. All your perfectionism, all your rationale, leave that at home. It's not needed here. I just need you to be you and play footy. But the day before, you had rational and perfectionism right up your ass all the way. Day before, absolutely. But on game day, it's gone. Weigh in, do your hydration, get yourself strapped, take your time, get your mind on, go and see the coach, but don't be thinking about stats and G-forces and meters per second. Don't worry about that. Yeah. And so as we got to the weeks in training, right, it's all about when can we get the player back and put more into him? When can we get more in? So the biggest thing for me, the biggest changes that I saw was definitely the biggest advantages was the live measurement data, GPS, polar. So I'm knowing where they are at any time and I can get enough into them in the day. And right then, if I can see it's not enough, I can take them there. And if I can see it's just a bit much because I know where they're going tomorrow, I can pull them back. But reading bodies and then putting it to the data, but then checking with the athlete. That's why a lot of people underrate RPEs. But there's nothing better than we used to set up drills. Or I would set up a drill and then turn the screen off. And on the screen, you'd have all the heart rates and that, so that they do exactly right. But what I would do is turn that off, and I would say, "Let's go, everybody into 85." When everyone's in 85, I'll start the drill. So they're pumping. I know Tom and Ciro. Robert. They're going to get in there. They're going to get in there within seconds. Boom, and they'll be hitting it. But I'm looking over here. I know Big Homole, Pasika. Sibley. I know they're going to take longer, so I'll wait. But I know. But when I see it, right, then I'll flick the screen on. The thing is, I want them to feel it without looking at the screen. Like. So I'll say, where do you think we are? And they'll go, oh, and then I go, click. Suddenly they see they're all in the red. You're all working. Some of you are above it. So the more I can have my athlete feel, understand, and relate his effort to that, then when we call for it and ask for it, he actually has a good idea about how hard it should feel while they're working, So that's been the biggest change, the biggest advantage, I believe, for me. Other successful teams may find something else, but definitely life. Now, remember, I call it measurement. So I'm measuring what I'm doing. I'm not setting the threshold at that. What I'm doing is going places and then looking at the measurement, not the other way around. Yeah. But when we look at long plans, when we look at accumulated fatigue, when we look at things like saliva testing and hormone testing, and we're looking to see indicators of fatigue and illness or whether somebody's immune system is up, those are a bit different. But at the end of the day, when it comes to just, looking at acute or chronic training data, that's still done with what's happening right in front of you. And then you can look at the number. We really only look at the number to make sure we're getting up there. If you're going over it, that's fine. But if you're getting up there, yeah.
Do you think that's another thing that's sort of, they're more accountable to that metric? That's a good thing that's come in with all of this technology now. So for instance, if someone's heart rate variability, getting an indication of whether they're fatigued or, their risk of injury, has that made them more accountable?
It hasn't made them more accountable, but it definitely made the staff more accountable.
Right.
Because we actually know what's happening. What it has made is that it's probably made the athlete more knowledgeable, because what we do then, especially with athletes with families, we know that the more we educate them about well-being and wellness, we know that they can pass that immediately on to the wife and kids, and they can see things there in family. So they know we're doing the measurement, but we don't bother dissecting the empirical or the empirical sciences about it. But we do say that there will cause you to feel this way, and this here will help you, contra that feeling. So we give them, it's all with athletes, rather than try and disrupt their intellect and have them thinking about clutter. We like to put actions in place and strategies so that they can use those to cope with the feelings and the physical anxieties that they may feel. Yeah.
And so what about player welfare as well? I know there's a lot of screening tools now. We talked to, when I was at the start of the podcast, we had a gentleman called Trevor Bailey, who played way back a long time ago, so way out of his era now. But he was talking about how back in the day, there was nothing like that. They didn't even consider their psychological well-being. It was all just about drilling them physically. If you showed any weakness, you were basically,
it's very militant.
Yeah. So, how's that obviously changed now? We look at the HIA and Kalen Ponga and guys like this who are, the collisions are getting harder. They're having more head knocks and concussions, and things are really changing in that department, aren't they?
Look, a lot of that can be related to good training practice, because, when they're getting head knocks, if it's a technical aspect, usually you're starting to lose technical competency when you get fatigued. So there's a tremendous amount around the importance of having really fit individuals, so that you do have more capacity to get more work done without hitting those fatigue levels where cognitively or neurologically you're going to be affected. Your vasomotor skills and things like that. However, in the same vein, that whole big window of injury. Like we used to do that with guys who got suspended for high tackles. They would spend, they would, they get harsher training because they weren't playing. They get more volume, but they would also get really specific agility, speed, accel, decel drills, because we know that's why they did that, because they couldn't get across there. They couldn't take the extra step. They weren't quick enough. They didn't react fast enough. So they just stuck their arm out. So we quickly learned, we're going to hurt you, we're going to get you there, we're going to get you under fatigue, but now we're going to also help you with those motor skills, with that spacing, that response. So when you're talking about, these players and how they, I suppose, how they're treated around those types of injuries and the concussions and that. It's about obviously the welfare, but it's even more so for us about the longevity of that athlete. And that sounds a little bit callous, but that's one of the main reasons why learning about these sciences is so positive and good. Not only is it healthier for the athlete, but that athlete, as an investment within that playing group, you can get more out of that athlete for longer. And the only way you're really going to get that is if they're healthy and well. So it's probably a really positive double-edged sword. Yeah.
So players now, they seem to be coping with the training stimulus better. If they're injured, they'll try to hide it. They want to stay on the park as much as possible. What in that department, how have you kind of influenced players with the data and the way you're able to interpret that amongst your coaching cohort? influence and impart your knowledge on players to help them make more informed decisions about their own challenges on the field, for instance. So like whether they had a head knock or concussion, or they've got an injury that can jeopardize their performance, say in the finals or big games.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is built during the training week, because you build these relationships with them, and they trust you, and also because they know you and you know them, they know that you know what that game means to them. They know that every game means, one of my greatest threats was to guys who I didn't believe were doing their mark as well, or I would let them know, if I miss something today, it's on you, because you haven't done this, or you haven't put the right number in, or, and then I'd say, see the dugout over there, you go get a pillow, because you could be sitting in there for a very long time. And you just remind them, you give them that future vision of what can happen. So you build these relationships with them, how what that chance of injury is, how long it takes to recover that, the whole process, and they trust you more when you're actually out there working with them on the field, and you say, hey, I can tell by the way you're moving, I can tell your running gate's out. And then you can usually say, how's that right, up around your right glute? Oh yeah, it is a bit tight. And the mere fact that you are in the right vicinity and you're talking, and he's thinking, well, they trust you even more. You need to be really on top of your anatomical game and your physiological game. And the people around you, there's sometimes you're always going to get overzealous, passionate staff members or coaches. And people like me, my job is to shut them down. So somebody might say, come out, and you say, you'll be talking to him. Doesn't happen so much now. And someone will come out and go, I can't harden up, and go to walk off. They're the people, you pull them up. You don't do it there, of course, but you say, yeah, mate, you get on with that. Then you just go over there, you grab them and say, hey, mate, don't do that. Don't walk out there and give your totally ignorant opinion on that, because you just set me back where I'm trying to get some information across. You just keep that to yourself, unless you want to go out and run. But me, I never had any problem doing that with any coach anywhere. Never had to do it really. but that's, you've really got to think about the environment where the athlete is, and all that trust banking, man, is massive. Yeah.